All righty, all righty. All right, peace, 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 peace and power, and elevation to all the beautiful people out there. This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. So today I'm very excited, but kind of nervous at the same time because I'm here with a brother who's who has made some powerful videos on YouTube, and he wrote some magnificent books. As a matter of fact, I'm just starting on the second book, so I have three of his books. I got the Supreme Mathematics, African Ma'at Magic. I also have his book, which is the Patah Technology, the one that I had finished off for the most part. And I'm reading the second book, which is Non-Ether Re-Engineering. So none other than brother African Creation Energy, who also go by the name of Professor Ace. So I appreciate you being here, brother. So before we get into all detail, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, like your background, where you from, and if you have a degree, what type of degree do you have?
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Greetings. Thank you so much, sister. Thanks for reaching out to me to be on the show. Thank you for the support, watching the videos, buying the books. That means the world to me. The African Creation Energy series of books was like a project of mine that I felt was necessary for our people in terms of motivating us in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. A little bit of background about myself. I was raised in the Black conscious community. I was actually raised as a Muslim, and I went to a Muslim school here in Atlanta, Georgia, up until about grade 8 or not, yeah, 8 or 9, grade 9, and then I went to a public high school in DeKalb County. Graduated, went on to college. I got a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering with a minor in physics. Went to grad school, got a master's degree in math and statistics. I started off in a PhD program, but my graduate assistantship kind of showed me how influential statistics was in research and the different work that sciences do. So I was really trying to get a better understanding of statistics, and I ended up getting a master's degree in statistics. And I went back to try to start off or complete that PhD program that I initially enrolled into. Uh, but it was around that time where I kind of got motivated to write the books on writing. So in 2008, I made my first trip to Africa. I've been in like 8 different African countries, and been motivated, just based on my background, being raised in the Black conscious community, seeing how the conditions of our people globally, and just wanting better for us. I was like, let me see if I can, write a series of books dedicated to African science, technology, engineering, and math, dedicated to motivating Black African people of African descent in the STEM field. And so, I wrote those series of books. At first, it was just supposed to be one book, and then it kind of sprawled into 3 books. The first 3 books, which was Science of Sciences and Science and Sciences, the next being Supreme Mathematic, African Math Magic, and then the third one, which was Technology. And then I just kept writing. So now I'm on 8 books now, with my plan to put out my ninth and final book of the series later this year. Um, and that'll really be like a compilation of all the books that I've written so far, as well as like the different lectures I've done over the years. Just all in one single package. Make any revisions I need to make, and hopefully that'll be well received by the community. Oh, and I hope I'm not too long winded. I'm not a talkative person, believe it or not.
Oh no, you good, you good, you good, you
Yeah.
good. Yeah, you
All right.
good. So you have a degree in electrical engineering, correct? And you said
Yeah.
a minor in physics.
Yes. Yeah, so my
Okay.
bachelor's degree was electrical engineering. Where I had a minor in physics. I went to Georgia Southern University. I don't know if you're familiar with Georgia
Yeah, I'm
Southern.
familiar with that. I'm familiar with Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I graduated from Georgia Southern, and then I went to grad school at Georgia State, and I got a master's degree in math and statistics at Georgia State. I started the physics PhD program at Georgia State, but I didn't finish.
Okay, okay. Wow. So you got a background. Now so you basically were born and raised in Atlanta.
Yeah. Born and raised in Atlanta, DeKalb County, East Side is
Okay,
what I.
okay, okay. East side. Okay. East side up in
Yeah,
the camp.
yeah.
Okay, east side, east side. Yeah, I was raised on the east side myself. Yeah, so
Okay.
okay.
Where'd you go to high school at?
Nah, I didn't go to high school on the east side, but I
Okay.
went to high school elsewhere. I went to high school in on the south side. I went to Mount Zion, and then I
Yeah.
had went out of state. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but okay, yeah, okay. So you from the east side? That's what's up. Now I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, okay, okay. Interesting. That's very interesting. Wow, you a Southern boy, Georgia boy. All right now.
Yeah.
Now, in the Black conscious community, I noticed you said you was Muslim, correct?
Yeah, so I was raised a Muslim. I wouldn't call myself a Muslim now anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I probably would have considered myself a Muslim probably up until around 2006, 2007. Around that time. So I mean, how far do you want me to go into it?
I mean,
I can
so
go.
like, okay, so okay, because the reason why I was asking, I know you was a Muslim, but I also remember you saying in the video that you was part of the Nuwapian nation at one point. Am I correct?
Yeah, so okay, so I can let me give that background. So
Okay.
um yeah, I was raised as a Muslim. Even while I was going to college, I still considered myself a Muslim. My dad was heavily involved in the Nuwabian organization. He was a member of the AEO. He was a member. AEO is an ancient Egyptian order. He was a member of the Nuwabian Masonic Lodge and the Nuwabian Shriner Temple. And I used to always talk. So my dad would like bring the books home, and so I would read the books that my dad brought home. And I would always like ask my dad, I was like, when I get out of college, I want to get involved with the Nubians or whatever. And he was like, no, I want you to focus on your education. I want you to focus on your education. So I never got involved like while it was still active. And then my dad passed in 2005. I think
Um,
around that same time, the land that they had, the Nubian land, kind of got raided and shut down and all that. And I remember like how supportive uh his brothers, his Nuwabian brothers were to our family in his passing. You know what I'm saying? And that really, even though my dad was always like, "Don't get involved, don't get involved," that like motivated me. Like I had been reading the books, but I wanted to know more. So I was like, okay, I really want to know about this because I see, how these brothers are pulling together to help our family in our time of need. So I want to know more. So probably from about 2006, 2007, I started reading the books heavy. And at this point in time, like there's no like Tamaray land. So like people are still teaching like remote classes in different parts of Atlanta. So and they had like a main headquarters in Athens. So again, I'm in Decatur, so I would drive from Decatur to Athens on Friday, and then on Saturday they used to have all eyes on Egypt bookstore on Auburn, and I used to go to that one on Saturday to the Saturday classes. And on Sunday, there was this brother called Noble Evans, or they called him Bunny, or Bun. And I would go to Bun's classes on Sunday, and that was like my weekend for like a year and a half. And then I met another brother, another New Albanian brother who was teaching the classes on the east side in Decatur, a brother by the name of Sakim. And since that was closer, I just kind of I stayed there. I stayed going to his classes, but also like I would go to the different classes and I would ask the same question in different classes. And
mhm.
the brother Sakim, his answers seemed to be the most pragmatic to me. So I was like, okay, I'll just I'll just here. And he was the one who actually led me. I shouldn't say led me, but he organized the first trip that I took to Africa in 2008. You know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
yeah, so that's basically how it all like played out. I don't know if I can call myself a member, but
Hmm.
I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people who were part of that organization.
Yeah.
Good people, good people. I won't never try to talk bad about the people. Unfortunately, the leader, he had some shortcomings that he succumbed to, but the people that built that nation are good people in my assessment, for the most
Right, right. Yeah, see, and I know playing the Nuwapian brothers and sisters because like, when I got into the journey of learning about the consciousness and whatnot, it's one of the first people I encountered with. I have they used to be downtown in Five Points area.
part.
And one of the brothers that I knew who was an elder, now he's an ancestor.
Right.
Um, he always made sure that I was getting information, getting different type of books, not just books that was pertaining to Nawapi and stuff, but books that was like pertaining to other authors like Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark and all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I know how it is. So yeah, I know you've been through quite a journey. You have. So now let's go ahead and let's get started on your books. The reason why I brought you here today because I like how you have your book formatted, like how you get into the details about science. Because what you do is, I know you use a lot of what's it called, anthropomorphism, and also the personification in your books. And on top of that, like when you talk about the origin, you go into like the ancient origin of science and get into the modern context of science. Now, let's talk about this book right here, The Pata Technology, Engineering Application of African Sciences. This book. Um, yeah, like I was telling somebody, I know you've seen one of the videos that I did with a brother, responding to, the accusation that he made, the claims that he made about your book.
Mm-hmm.
And I in the book in the beginning, I highlighted some information and I said, okay, like this one right here, the first one, it says African creation gods of technology, right? And it says mathematical objects are mental ideas, concepts, symbols, and or abstraction that are used to model, represent, symbolize, and provide a way for the human mind to comprehend and explain various observed phenomena and aspects of reality and the natural world. And you also put, just like mathematical objects, there is no overwhelming concrete proof or evidence that God exists in the real world as described by the various stories associated with the respective God concepts. However, just like mathematical objects, examples can be found in reality and the natural world that corresponds to the various definition, description, metaphorical and or symbolic aspects associated with God and God concept. So when I read that part, I understood that you was speaking from a state of quantum physics. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that right there, that lets me know that you was using quantum physics in this book. Can you explain like why you use a lot of personification in your book, as far as like comparing it to like deities and all of that stuff for the
Sure,
listening audience?
sure. Okay. So let me start here, right? So let's talk. I'm gonna be as brief and succinct as possible. So, like when we talk about science, what is science? Science is the systematic study of the natural world based on observation and experimentation, right? Engineering is the practical application of scientific information, and technology is the product of science and engineering, right? The need for people to systematically acquire knowledge about the natural world has always been a human need, right? Since the very beginning. Knowledge, information is the most vital resource that anybody can have. And the ability to harness that vital resource is systematically acquiring the knowledge. All right. When we talk about the methods in which people acquire that knowledge, right? Today we call it the scientific method, right? The observation, hypothesis, um, theories, and conclusions, right? The experimentations and conclusions that the steps of the scientific method. Um, those same steps, uh, early man performed even
I'm sorry,
before.
brother. Can't you go back and repeat what you were saying because the service kind of act up a little bit? I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I'm like hot spotting off my phone, so that might have something to do with
Yeah.
it. But my point is that systematically acquiring knowledge is a need that human beings have always had since the beginning. even before the formulation of what we now know as modern science. When we study ethnoscience, when we study what they call traditional indigenous knowledge or traditional indigenous science versus Western science, um, the method by which traditional indigenous people encoded the abstractions to explain the natural world was through allegory, was through personification, was through anthropomorphism. The method that we do it today in modern science is through mathematics. And so again, I'm writing books to motivate the Black conscious community in the STEM fields. I know my community. I was raised in my community. There's no better way to motivate Black African people in the STEM fields than to use an approach, to use a method that was similar to the way our ancestors did it, right? Um, and so that's really like the motivating reason why I use symbols, why I use anthropomorphism, why I relate the different scientific concepts to various mythologies in the books. In order to, it's used as a pedagogical modality to teach things. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to see how fast a child will run, send them to where they want to go. And that's just basically say people are motivated to do things that they really want to do. And so if you present information in a way that is palatable to a person, they'll be more receptive to it. And so that's basically the idea behind why I use the different mythologies and allegories and symbols from African culture to relate them to science.
Okay, yes. And I agree with you. And I'm glad that you broke that down because, as I was saying before, and I have this conversation with people a lot, you have to go into the rudimentary concept so people can be able to have a basic understanding. And then they'll gradually get into the modern context of things. So, like when I looked at your books, I say, okay, because there are people that so quick to saying that, oh, it's pseudo this, that, and other, but without having a thorough understanding of what you was trying to come, where you was coming from with this. And so I said, well, no, you gotta look at, well, who is the audience, because you gotta remember who is the audience that he's speaking to. There's a certain type of audience, and you just said you speaking to the Black conscious community or the people in the conscious community, because and in order for them to really get into the logistics of science and get the feel of it, you would have to explain to where it can be to that level of understanding, because everybody's not going to understand the same thing or at the same rate, right? And science is a very, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying exactly.
Yeah, science is a very complex subject. I mean, we all know that. And I can tell you, for me trying to learn quantum physics, like on my own, it's very complicated because quantum physics ain't even easy to understand, to be honest. Like it's like that mystery science because you're trying to figure it out, but you really, it's not going to really figure it out. You still got to continue to go over and over again till you really get the understanding of it. And I'm starting to get a little bit better at it. But yes, you have to. You have to really go to the basic understanding and to be able to elevate people. And people don't understand like the origin of science. Science started off as proto-science, as with the spirituality, the spiritual systems, the mythologies, and the ethnoscience, which deals with religion and all of that. So religion was trying to make the attempt to explain science, but did not have the proper consensus to do so. So that's where it really started off. Then over a period of time, once people started to advance with technology and using different type of ideas and concept, then it was able to separate itself from the religion and spiritual aspects. And one of the example I always use, like the days of the week. The days of the week are named after Roman and Greek gods. The months, that's named after the Romans and Greek gods. Also, when we talk about these planets, the planets that we know of, they're named after gods and like the Romans and the Greek gods as well. So that goes to show you where the origin begins. All right. So now The next question I want to ask you, since we're on there, let's talk a little bit about ethnoscience. To you, why do you believe that ethnoscience is important? What is ethnoscience and why is it important?
Okay. So ethnoscience and what you talked about in terms of proto-science go hand in hand, right? Proto-science is basically proto means before. It's the science before science. So it's basically saying how did human beings acquire knowledge about their environment before what we now know as modern science, right? And so in that field of study, you find different subjects like alchemy, metaphysics, astrology is also a proto science. Um, that's all natural philosophy probably would fall under the heading of proto science. Uh, and most of those words are unique to the Western world, but uh, you know, alchemy or different alchemy like practices can be found throughout Africa amongst the blacksmiths who are technologists and also priests in their various tribes. Um, Ethnoscience, so proto-science deals with how people gathered knowledge prior to modern science. Ethnoscience deals with how though they gathered the knowledge and how they express their their uh, their knowledge once they gather it, uh, differentiated by different cultures and locations and geographics and different groups of people. So, for example, the way prior to globalization, prior to the intermixing of cultures, the way a Chinese person would describe their system of astrology would differ from the way an African person who would describe their system of astrology would differ from the way a European person would describe their system of astrology or astronomy, right? So that's basically what ethnoscience is, how the different cultures, different groups of people express the scientific concepts that they were able to, gather from where they were, in their system. Just think about it like this, right? Again, prior to globalization, prior to the intermingling and intermixing of information, why would a a scientist in Ghana have any hypothesis, have any theory, have any explanations about snow? Snow is not part of their natural world. Snow is not something that they would observe. Snow, any scientific thought about snow would not exist within the mind of a Ghanaian scientist prior to globalization. So it's that type of thing, right? That's what ethnoscience is, how it differs from place to place. One thing that we find in Western science, Western meaning European and its colonies, is that um, in Western science, within the past 200 to 300 years or so, there's been a gradual, presumed separation between that which is scientific and that which is spiritual, right? They've also have established what they call demarcation criteria or the demarcation problem, where they try to separate that which is scientific from that which is non-scientific or that which is pseudoscience. So it's through Western science that we get those different types of conversations in terms of the demarcation criteria. How do you define what's pseudoscience? How do you define what's science? Why science and spirituality should be separate versus not? But as you said, when you really peel back the curtain at what's going on in Western science, they still name scientific concepts based on their European deities. I have videos on my YouTube channel talking about this. You already said it, the days of the week, the planets in the solar system, the elements of the periodic table, terms like thesis, chronos, chronology, arche, all of those are European deities. So they've put the name of the deities from their ancient spiritual systems within the scientific nomenclature. So while they say that there's a separation, it's a presumed separation because it still exists there. And then so us as Black African people, you know, we make the argument, okay, well, we shouldn't worship white Jesus, we shouldn't worship white gods. But then when you move into the realm of science, I mean, there's a whole host, there's a whole pantheon of white deities that scientific concepts have been named after. And so that's one of motivating factors why, I'm doing the work I'm doing, relating scientific concepts to African deities and African mythology and African symbols.
Okay. Okay, great. Someone put in the comment section, William Whitwell is the man behind that. Are you familiar with that person?
William Whitwell, I don't know who that is, and he's the man behind what?
Um, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I guess he's the man behind the whole. I don't know. I got to figure that one out myself. I got to ask that person in the chat, but I was just asking maybe if you was familiar. Um,
I never heard that
okay.
name.
All right. So yeah, and I'm glad that you were saying all this, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Now let's get into the concept about medicine, because the reason why I'm speaking on medicine is the fact that we're in this pandemic, we're dealing with this COVID and all of that. So let's go into like the origin of medicine. Let's talk about the medical symbol, the caduceus symbol. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me something about that. Why is that symbol is the caduceus? Why is it used as what's the symbolic meaning behind it?
Yeah. So I try to stay in my lane, in certain things. So I don't have a heavy background in biology. I don't have a heavy background in medicine. I can speak
Okay.
to the origin of the caduceus symbol.
Okay.
From my understanding, that was a symbol that originated with the ancient Egyptian deity Tahuti or Thoth, and because of his association with different healers, and as it moved into Greek, it kind of got associated with the Greek deities related to medicine, and it's been now associated with medicine, like the medical industry. But again, that's that's another example of how modern science, still pays homage to ancient mythology and ancient symbols. Like, I mean, that's a blatant one right there. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, okay. To respond to the question, the person put separation of science and philosophical or spiritual ideologies within Western academia. So that's
Mm,
who. Yeah, that's who he was talking about. Okay.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to look him up. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of that, I have a book that kind of goes into what you were saying. This book right here, I don't know if you ever heard of. It's called "The Beginnings of Western Science"
Mm, I
by
haven't
David
read that one.
Lindbergh. It pretty much goes into what you were talking about, just the origin of it, of how it came out of the mythology concept and the spiritual concept, and gradually gone on into modern science. So,
Mm.
yeah. Now, what's your thought on vaccination?
Yeah. So with vaccination, like first of all, I'm a black person in the black community. So I
Hmm.
understand, like I'm not going to pretend like I don't understand people's concerns. I don't
Hmm.
understand people's fear. Like I get all it like that all of that makes sense. The people talk about the Tuskegee experiment, the different experiments that have been done on black women, how we have distrust of the medical industry. Like all of that plays a part into shaping our worldview. All of that informs our prior distribution. It forms our beliefs on how we operate in the world. So, I understand the reluctance. However, however, I personally, I had to sit back and deconstruct all of my concerns, deconstruct all of my fears about the vaccination, about any vaccination hesitancy I may have had. And when I really sat down and deconstructed all of them, the majority of them were deconstructible and were silly. And the only one major concern I had left was, well, what if there's some long-term side effect that we don't know yet that could potentially show up and become detrimental? But that's an unknown unknown, and an unknown unknown is with anything. Like you can't live your life, you can't plan your life based on unknown unknowns. You can't move around the world like, well, something might happen and I don't know what it is, I'm just not going to do it. So you don't make plans on unknown unknowns. So I had to kind of throw that little concern to the side, and all my other concerns I was able to deconstruct them. And so I was able to go and get the vaccine. And for
Me
for
too.
people who have Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. And so, and this is another thing that got me. So
Yeah,
with
I
the
got the
test,
Pfizer one.
I got
Sorry.
Pfizer. I got Pfizer too. I got Pfizer too.
Yeah.
But with the Tuskegee experiment, right? People always they talk about it like the government gave the men in Tuskegee syphilis. That's not what happened. Those men were already sick. They already had syphilis, and what they did, which was wrong, was they withheld treatment. That means they had medicine for their condition. They withheld that treatment because they wanted to see how the disease would progress in the person. So basically, so what you're doing when you don't go get a vaccine, you're basically pulling a Tuskegee on yourself. You're basically saying, I'm not gonna. There's a treatment. There's a medicine for this virus, but I'm not going to get it. I'm just going to see what happens. You pulling the Tuskegee on yourself.
Mm.
So these are the things when I was deconstructing my thoughts about it and everything. These were the things that I took into consideration. In terms of the vaccine. But I say if you have any hesitancy, be honest with yourself, deconstruct your thoughts, and at the end of the day, if you come to the conclusion that it's not right for you, then you have to make your best personal conclusion. But at least try to do so in an informed way with the most information that you can obtain. Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's powerful, and you're right about that. You have to really come up with your own conclusion and do your research. You know what I'm saying? It's always important to do your research. And like you said, yes, there can be a long term side effects from having the vaccination. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be honest. When I got vaccinated, man, now the first time, let's just say my leg was hurting a little bit. I'm like, why is my ankle hurting? And
Mm,
then it went away. But then when I got the second one, oh my God, I felt some type of pain in my lower back. I'm like,
mm,
oh, it was like my back was stiff a little bit. I was like, oh my goodness, this is not
mm,
right. And I was out of town, I had went to Savannah. And I was like,
yeah.
oh, this doesn't feel right. Oh my goodness.
Mm,
So yeah, so I know how it be. So, but that happens with anything. Any medicine that you take is gonna have side effects.
right.
So even the doctor warns you, when you go get your medication that you're gonna experience some side effects.
Yeah.
So I mean that's just the nature of it. So it's like you can't really do much about it. It depends on your body and how you
Right.
take care of your body and what type of nutrition that you intaking. Um also, what is your whole argument? Now let's play devil's advocate for a little bit. Okay. Let's say those who use herbs or that are into the naturopathy,
Mhm.
what and they tell you that, well, the vaccine is not good and the vaccine will cause all kind of serious problem. It's best you need to just go ahead and take herbs and just use naturopathy. That way you won't, because naturopathy is more healthier, and you wouldn't have any chances of becoming sick. I mean, what is your thought on people who's into the naturopathy? What
Yeah. I
would you say?
mean,
What's your response?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a lot of family members who are into naturopathy, homeopathic medicine. They don't. Again, our people are distrustful of the medical industry because the medical industry has a history of not necessarily doing right by us. So I get it. I 100% get it. And so we're still sick. We're still sick, but we can't trust the medical industrial complex. And so we have to get, you know, we have to do something. And so people turn to naturopathy, people turn to herbs, people turn to homeopathy. Um, look, people people have to make the decision that's best for them. They have their reasons. Like, one thing I used to debate with people a lot as a young man. I'm in my 40s now. It's like I
Oh,
never
wow.
left. Yeah, I'm 40. I'm not like I'm 40. I'm just 40, but um
I thought you was younger than that. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, so it's like I never left the debate changing someone's mind, right? You get into a heated, exchange of words, and what happens is people just become more entrenched in what they believe prior to the discussion. And so all I can say is I understand, your distrust of the medical industry. I understand that, homeopathy, herbs, and naturopathy is an alternative. And if you feel like that works for you, then go for it. Personally, I do a combination of both. I go see, a traditional doctor. But there are certain herbs that I take on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? But you know, when those herbs are not working, you gotta go to the doctor. I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I mean I know people who have relied on herbs, even in the presence of severe illness, and rather than going to the doctor, they they relied on those herbs and it didn't turn out good for them. You know what I'm saying? So, you really have to balance the two. Like my books are all about balancing the two. Balancing science, balancing spirituality. You know what I'm saying? Balance if you want to balance in within your medicine, okay, well, take the herbs, but then go to the doctor when you get really sick. You know what I'm saying? You've been taking the herbs for a few days, okay, and it's not getting any better, go see a doctor. And you still have agency at the doctor. Like if they try to pull, like, go in there, ask all the questions, and if they try to do something that you don't feel right about, you have the agency to leave. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's what I would say about that. That's what I say.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Um, wow, that's powerful. Now, I want to talk about, let's go on to the next part of the science, which I guess that will kind of deal with the physics, right? So, with this book right here, you wrote non-ether re-engineering.
Yes,
And I noticed you use it as an acronym, right?
yes.
And the acronym is electricity, thermodynamics, hydrodynamics, electromagnetic radiation, and resonant energy, right? Um, Now, in this book, you spoke about the quintessential element, which is the ether. And so, can you expound on the concept about ether as far as being a quintessential element?
Okay, so again, so we're going back in time. We're going to a time of proto-science, not modern science. We're going back into a time when people were developing. Here's the thing about science: like scientific theories can be updated, they can be changed, and they evolve over time. So when you go backwards in time, like you'll see how the scientific theories, the explanations may not have been as precise as they are today. So when we go back in time, um, in terms of people's understanding of matter, they understood it in terms of what they call the four classical elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and the fifth element, which they described as ether. Um, and ether, they proposed, was a medium through which light could propagate, right? And when I'm writing that book, 90th Array Engineering, I'm using a term that had become well known within the Black conscious community, non-ether, and I want to give proper credit to the person who originated that term, non-ether, which was a man by the name of Johnny Eugene Brown, who
Yep,
also wrote by the name of Afro Ono, or
I heard of him. Yep.
Amanubi Rakota. One regret that I have in that book is that I discussed Malachi York when it comes to non-ether, and I would later find out that he had nothing to do with that term. So I want to give the proper credit to the man who originated that term. But it's become well known in the black conscious community today, and I wanted to use that term as a springboard. Again, the same way I use African deities and African mythology as springboards to discuss other scientific concepts. I wanted to use that term non-ether as a springboard to discuss those various topics that are loosely associated with ether, namely electricity, thermodynamics, hydrodynamics, and electromagnetic radiation. The interesting thing about the way it plays out when it comes to each letter in that term: ether, electricity, which I equated with pata; thermodynamics, which I equated to Sekhmet, ET8; hydrodynamics, which I equated to Shu; and Tefnut. like that flow is the same thing, which is what is described in the Memphite theology and the cosmology from ancient Egypt, right? If you talk about how they talk about how things started from a primordial abyss. From the primordial abyss, we got our quantum world. From our quantum world, we got our atomic world to our molecular world, on up to our matter, our atoms, onto our planets, onto our you know our galaxy and the matter that we know today, and how that lines up with Ptah. He gives birth to Atum. Ptah is supposed to be married to Sekhmet. That's thermodynamics, electricity, and thermodynamics. And then they give birth to Atum Ray, who gives birth to the Ennead. The first two would be Shu and Tefnut, hydrodynamics. So I was looking through that book last night. I was like, that's interesting how that flows out. But yeah, so that was the main reason why I wrote that book. To basically discuss those concepts and related to a concept that had become prevalent within our community.
Okay, okay. Wow, that's dang. And you did a fantastic job on that. I mean, you really did. You really did. I mean, cause like I say, you just you have that thorough knowledge of modern science to where you can bring about the proper or the better interpretation of it to those who may not be as scientific and that wants to learn. You really do. So now I have some favorite videos that of yours that I like. I like the one that you did about the prophets in the Bible using
Mhm.
technology, and you did the one about pseudoscience, and you did the one about the ethnoscience. But the one about pseudoscience is very interesting. Like the way you break it down in the video, it's just like to me, it's a lot of information, but it is really it makes you really think more into like what is really pseudoscience and how we use the term pseudoscience. You know what I'm saying? In a negative context. I mean, there is some, negative things about pseudoscience, but not all of it is negative. So right now, as we speaking on the concept of pseudoscience, I want you to break it down. I want you to tell us, the listening audience, about pseudoscience and its proper context, and like what's the meaning of it, and what's the difference between pseudoscience and protoscience, and how they're
Okay.
similar.
Okay. That's a
I mean, how they're
great.
I'm sorry.
That's a great. That's a great question. That's a great question. So here's the thing, right? Okay. So first, let's define what science is and what pseudoscience is.
Okay.
So the conversation about what separates science from non-science or science from pseudoscience is discussed in the philosophy of science under a heading called the demarcation problem or the demarcation criteria. That's a phrase that you can Google and people can find out more about it. So it's well established. Like there's like years, decades, if not centuries of conversation about what separates science from pseudoscience. So there's a consensus amongst scientists that what separates science from pseudoscience is what they call falsifiability, meaning science attempts to prove itself wrong versus pseudoscience attempts to prove itself right. Now, when we drill down into that, there's some more conversation that can be had. Let me see. Let me try to organize my thoughts on this. So,
Okay. Okay.
when we look into proto science, right? Um, science meaning science before what we have established as modern science. Pro- the proto sciences that I named before: alchemy, metaphysics, astrology, um, they have concepts within those bodies of knowledge that are scientific, meaning they use a methodology which attempts to falsify information, and they have concepts within those bodies of knowledge which are pseudoscientific, meaning they use a methodology that only tries to prove itself right. And so what we find when we look in proto science and when we look in certain ethnosciences is a scientific methodology and a pseudoscientific methodology intermingled for sometimes. And what the demarcation criteria does, it says, okay, we know how to separate what is scientific. We know what to how to separate what is pseudoscientific. And so from alchemy, those concepts that they could classify or separate using the demarcation criteria of falsifiability, from alchemy, those concepts became your chemistry. From astrology, those concepts became part of astronomy, right? And the concepts that they could not um, classify with the demarcation criteria, they got left in the pseudoscience bucket, right? And so in the conversation of demarcation criteria and how we define what is scientific and what is pseudoscientific, right? We have to understand what is falsifiability. Falsifiability just basically means to prove something wrong. Meaning, if I have an idea, rather than going out and looking for all the information to prove myself right and not look for any information to prove myself wrong, I make attempts to try to prove myself wrong. When I make an attempt to try to prove myself wrong, if I can't find anything that proves myself wrong, then I can say, okay, well, at least I haven't observed anything yet that proves this idea wrong. So probably this idea is right. Whereas if you use a pseudoscientific methodology, when you go out and look for information to prove yourself right, you could really find anything. You'll start looking. Any little connection that you find is a reason for why what you think is right is right. And what happens when you use a pseudoscientific methodology is you end up deluding yourself into thinking that you have a better understanding of things than you really do. But what's crazy about the pseudoscientific methodology is that everybody falls a victim to that at some point in time in their life, because you when you go out and look for information to prove yourself right, you find information to prove it right, automatically that confirmation makes you say, okay, yeah, I must be on the right track. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think, how deep should I go into it? So
Go ahead.
here's here's the problem with falsifiability, right? Because it's not possible to observe everything. Like, you can't observe everything, then that means falsifiability is not really ever possible. You can't, like, all you can say is, based on everything that I have been able to observe, this idea is not wrong. So you get what I'm saying? Am I making sense? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. In other words, cause like, okay, let me break it down. Cause I get where you're coming from. In other words, there's some things that are still in the hypothesis, or you know what I'm saying, or that's still hypothetical, but it has not been like further proven to be either factual or or intangible or tangible, but it's still on the, it's still questionable. It's still like put out there for research purpose. So in other words, what you basically saying, science can't really give you every answer to everything. So it's just some things is not just going to, certain things you're not going to get answers to. Certain things is just going to still either be unknown or still it's going to go through the process of the researching procedure.
and to build on that, even the scientific concepts where they are able to develop a scientific theory, meaning, they had the hypothesis, they tested the hypothesis, they repeatedly tested the hypothesis, and now they have a theory. Even with that theory, they can't say that I've I've seen everything, so I know that this theory is 100% correct. That's why scientific theories have the potential to be overturned over time with more observations, right? And so that's the problem with falsifiability. Another caveat to that is, um, let's say something is falsifiable, but it's always wrong, right? Like, let's say you have an idea that you can prove wrong, and every time you test it, it is wrong. Well, is that idea scientific? Of course not, right? So there's a delicate balance between um, the demarcation criteria that the consensus of scientists have, which is falsifiability, and also something that is accurate, right? The way I say it is, what separates science from pseudoscience is pseudoscience only ever tries to confirm that itself right, and it doesn't ever try to prove itself wrong. Science does make an attempt to prove itself wrong, and it does make an attempt to prove itself right. And the best scientific ideas are right most of the time. Now here's the one caveat that I talk about in that video, where using a pseudoscientific methodology is more beneficial than using the scientific methodology. When
Oh,
the
okay.
hypo-
Well, break that down for me. Go ahead and break it down for the listening audience. Why you say that pseudoscience is more beneficial than science?
in this one particular case that I'm about to give,
Okay.
when the hypothesis that you're testing, if you attempt to falsify it, it would lead to some harm or death coming to you or another person. That's the one. So, because what happens is, if it turns out that you're right, then you could end up dead. And so you don't need to falsify that hypothesis. You don't need to prove that wrong.
Hmm.
You need to preserve yourself. You need and that thought process, that pseudoscientific thought process, which leads to self-preservation, has come down through evolution, and it affects the mind of all of us. You know what I'm saying? At some point in time or another. So yeah, that's the one instance where following the pseudoscientific methodology might be beneficial.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Wow. You know what? That's deep. Now I like how you broke that down. That's deep. So, and then when we and sometimes people get the misconception or preconceived notion that because something in pseudoscience is bad or it's not beneficial or anything like that. But I always give these examples, like for example, aromatherapy is considered pseudoscience. What's the other one? Francois is considered pseudoscience. Meditation is considered pseudoscience. However, those things have benefits. Now, they only pseudo because it's not enough information to validate them as far as like enough explanation behind them. But at the same time, it's beneficial. As far as people's personal lives is concerned, they use them on a consistent basis. Like for me, I like aromatherapy. I like when I be able to light up an incense or a sage or anything that has any type of scent to it. It gives me that it calms my nerves. It makes me feel more relaxed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, there are some benefits to those things that are pseudoscience. Now, since you brought that up and you broke it down, because you said a lot right there, you really did. I give you that. Let's talk about the peer reviews in the journals. Now, I'm big on peer reviews. I'm big on journals. I'm big on scholarship. I'm really am. But sometimes these things can be tricky. And the reason why I say these things can be tricky because they can be based on people's it can be confirmation bias taking place in science, especially those who are considered to be scientists. Um so let's talk about that. Let's build on that for a moment as far as like how there could be confirmation bias in science and the peer reviewed journals and um, the scholarly journals and how you have to be careful when you read certain articles and certain information and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to build on that, and then but I want to just say like a brief sentence or two about the aromatherapy and the feng shui. Like,
Okay.
yeah, so those things are pseudoscientific, um, and in terms of like how they make you feel, you know what I'm saying? Like that's subjective, and that's all well and good. I think where they get into trouble at is where they start trying to make scientific claims about the thing. Like it's one thing for to have a aromatherapy candle or whatever, and you like the smell of it. It makes you feel good. It puts you in a good mood. And then it's another thing when they start trying to talk about like your brain wave and energy fields and stuff like that. Like that's where they veer off into the pseudoscientific method. You know what I'm saying? And so again, those fields of study, they could be they could, I guess, move themselves out of that criteria if they make an attempt to start falsifying some of their claims. But in terms of like the peer reviewed journals and things, again, let's go back to what is science. Science is the systematic study of the natural world based on observation and experimentation. Based on that definition, as long as you're using the scientific method, you're using correct methodology, you're using mathematics, anything that you study should be fair game, right? But what you find not only in different journals, not what you find not only in and I'm not saying this to discourage people from reading journals, but what I'm saying is that what you find in journals and what you find in certain colleges and institutions and university is that certain areas of investigation, certain subject matter are even discouraged from people even investigating them, right? Like for example, for a long time, um, serious scientific inquiry into extraterrestrial life. You know, if you were a tenured professor at a university, if you were a prestigious person, if and you were interested in that subject area, you wouldn't dare write about it. You wouldn't dare speak about it, or you wait till the end of your career when you're about to retire, then you put out a paper. It's equally this is Neil deGrasse Tyson's quote. It's equally intellectually lazy to reject a concept without investigating it as it is to accept a concept without investigating it. And the fact that certain areas of the natural world are discouraged from being investigated within certain institutions, that's problematic. We're going to always have a huge gap in our knowledge base as long as people are, preventing the investigation into certain areas of the natural world. And so, um, that's one thing I guess that's like a rub against those journals and those institutions. But I don't want people to commit what they call a type 1 or type 2 error. I don't want people to just look at the small minority of bad and dismiss the overwhelming majority of good. If there's a lot of good information being put in through those different avenues, then that's where we should look, to get information from.
Right, right. And I totally agree with you. Yeah, not all information there are scientific or, journal based is bad. I mean, because there's a lot of things that's beneficial to them, but it, like, going back what you're saying, and to build on that, we just have to be careful, and we have to like analyze certain article and just like question certain things, what I'm saying, as far as the consensus of the articles, and like the whole purpose of the author or the editor or whoever is writing the articles, like where are they coming from, and you know what type of, what are they using, subjectivity, or are they being objective, or how are
Who's
they?
funding it? Who's
Yeah,
funding
I'm
their
just like, yeah,
research? Yeah.
right, yeah, who's doing your research and all of that. And then what I've learned, that in some peer reviewed journals, not all of them, there are times that people can come in with some type of research information, and what they'll do, they'll pay somebody to just go ahead and put a stamp on it and say that it's peer reviewed, without actually having it to look over. You know what I'm saying? Like having them to actually like read everything. There's just like, if they can, if they have the money and they can afford, they can pay the individual to just put a stamp on it.
Yep, yeah. These different companies, they have R&D, research and development departments specifically for that purpose. They have scientists that they have on payroll uh, to provide whatever literature they need to push whatever product to market that they're trying to push. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's something else that you have to look at. Again, one of the purposes of the books that I was writing, scientific literacy is the ground level where we want to be able to understand scientific concepts, be able to read scientific papers, be able to scrutinize it. If they made a mistake, we would be able to say for ourselves, "Oh, you see right here, they made a mistake." You know what I'm saying? So having our people scientific literate, that's level one. The second level is employment, right? There are a lot of employment opportunities in the STEM fields. Some of
I
the
was
better
gonna ask you
paying,
about this before. You must have read my
yeah,
mind.
some of the better paying jobs that exist within this society or within the STEM field. So, having our people get motivated in the STEM fields, above scientific literacy is the actual scientific application in terms of employment, and then over and above that is complete self-sufficiency and independency, meaning building a nation, right? Building up Africa, building up the different African countries, being having our African industrial revolution where Black African people, we are in control of our science. We're producing. We're in control of our natural resources. We're producing technology and empowering ourselves through that endeavor, right? And so those are like the three steps on the pyramid of like, why I see STEM as important to our Black African people.
Wow, you just you just hit the nail on the coffin with that. Like you just answered that question because that was the next question I was gonna ask you as far as like why STEM is very important. But and I'm a big advocate of STEM myself. However, where I stand in my field, because I've been to college, I don't have a degree, of course, but I went to school for sociology.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very big on social science, like psychology, anthropology, and sociology, all of that. So, yeah, but I'm big on the STEM because I feel like, especially in this day and age, we need to like really get into the habit of like getting involved with the upgrading of technology and the upgrading of science, and we need to be able to keep up with what's going on because it's happening. So we're in the age of technology. We're in the digital age. Everything is being digitalized now, pretty much. It's not like how it used to be where you used to can do things manually. All you can do is you can go on the internet now. Even like your favorite programs or your favorite television shows, you find them on the internet. You go to these, or you can go on your phone and get the apps. If you want to look at something, you know what I'm saying. So that's how it is. And even with currency,
Yeah.
even though we haven't got there yet, but as you can see, there's slowly a transitional process taking place as far as currency becoming digitalized. However, there is some issue regarding to cryptocurrency. So, speaking of cryptocurrency, what is your thought on cryptocurrency at the moment? If you know anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm familiar. I'm familiar with it. Um, what are my thoughts about cryptocurrency? Wow. Um, I feel like that's the direction that things are going in. I wouldn't be surprised in the next. I'm gonna go long. I wouldn't be surprised in 20 years or so that every country has its own form of cryptocurrency. But yeah, that seems like the direction that we're going in. Either different countries are going to adopt a cryptocurrency, or cryptocurrency is going to become outlawed. It's going to go either one of the two ways. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that does seem like it is the future of economics. But I want to say that yeah, sociology is a science, right? So you have your natural sciences, and then you have your social sciences. Again, science is the systematic study of the natural world based on observation and experimentation. Human beings are a part of the natural world. And so your social sciences are the sciences that focus on the study of things relevant to human beings, right? So, I would class through science, you're able to study everything, right? You're able to study everything through science. So yeah, I would count sociology within STEM, honestly.
Yeah, it is science. It's just a different category of science.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all of it goes back to philosophy because philosophy is considered as the mother of science. So it's like this: philosophy is the mother of science. It introduces the knowledge, whereas epistemology is like basically studying of the knowledge in itself, and then science gives the application to knowledge. You see what I'm saying? So that's the way I understand. That's how I, was able to break it down. Um, yeah, but it all goes back to philosophy because philosophy it just deals with the beliefs, the logic, the wisdom, interpretation, all of that. That's all it deals with. So if we're gonna talk, you can't talk science without talking about philosophy. You can't talk about epistemology without talking about philosophy. You can't talk about any subject without talking about philosophy, without dealing with philosophy. So And that's why philosophy to me is very important to know and to learn, because that's how it all started. It originated from that subject alone, that concept alone, philosophy.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's 100% true. Your philosophy. So you have to establish a philosophy of science before you can have a science. So the philosophy, like you said, lays the front, the groundwork, the foundation of your science. Your beliefs lay the foundation of your science. Your beliefs, your philosophy, all of those things come from what? Those different mythologies, those different allegories, those different things that people used as teaching tools um, years ago. That motivate that inspired your philosophy. So I mean, when you really look at it, you have a holistic worldview. You see how all of those things kind of work together. Yep. Did I get cut off?
Oh no, 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 no. No, I had myself on mute while I was listening to you. But yes, you're right. Absolutely. It's all connected together. Yeah, it's all connected together. I'm gonna try to see if anybody got any question. So I put the link in the chat. If anybody want to come on here, and if you guys have any question for brother Ace, you can go ahead and just click on the link if you guys got any question. But what else? I mean, wow, you really said a lot. I'm just very amazed by this. I mean, this conversation is like, wow, it's very beautiful. I see why you call yourself a professor now, because you got that mindset of a professor for sure.
and
Ever.
and, and yeah, and and so I did teach. So when I was in grad school, I taught a lab at Georgia State, and I taught college algebra at DeKalb Tech back in 2013. Yeah, for 2 semesters.
Oh,
So I have that experience. The books that I've written, we've been able to have different STEM camps in Atlanta with middle school and high school students. But we're able to do certain, like when you go in the back of the Tar Technology book, there's some experiments back there. We do some of those experiments. I filmed some of them, have them on my YouTube. Nine Ether Ray Engineering has some experiments in there. So yeah, so in addition to just the information, I always emphasize practical application also. And so that's one thing that does come out of those books. And that's one way those books have been used also.
okay, yes. Yeah, because, whoo, wow. I mean, yeah, you are such a professor. You are you are such a professor, and I did a good thing by recommending your book. And baby, let me tell you something. I got a criticism. I got some criticism. One guy called me a pseudo queen for promoting your
Yeah,
book. I
I
believe
saw
it
I
or
saw
not.
that. Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, and you were going to bat hard, and I watched the video, and I was like, man, first of all, I want to apologize to you because if my books are perceived as pseudo or negative in the eyes of certain people, I wouldn't want that negativity to carry on to another person. And I was like, man, she going so hard, so I was like, let me talk to the person, let me talk to him and see if I can
Well, you know what?
change his
That's
mind.
good, 'cause I'm trying to get the person on here, and obviously I haven't got a respond back.
Yeah,
So I
it's
don't
all
know
good.
I
It's all
think
good.
the person ain't seen my message, or maybe they just a little they're a little skeptical.
Yeah,
They probably wouldn't even have anything to say. You probably would just smash them. In my opinion, I'm gonna be honest with you. You probably gonna
I,
smash. You probably gonna just shut them down.
yeah. I mean, I'm not a person who wants to go to war with information or
Nah,
anything like that. I don't like. I never showed up anywhere trying to debate anybody. I have a conversation. Like I said, like my personal experience is that when people have ideas going into something, they generally leave debates more entrenched in the idea that they had, going into it. So, but what can I say? I understand what the concept of pseudoscience is. I understand what this concept of science is. I understand what's meant by pseudo. I would like to think that I follow proper methodology. If I got something wrong within the books, like I mentioned about the origin of the word non-ether, I'm not afraid to come back and say, hey, I got that wrong. And I am
Right.
planning on putting out, a compilation at the end of this year, which will, any little thing that I may have gotten wrong in those books that I'll update it. And that is science. Science is not about being right all the time.
That's right.
Science is
There you
about
go.
using correct methodology. And when you find out something is wrong, then you correct it and you push forward. That's
That's right.
science. And
That's
so,
right.
I mean, based on that, sentiment, I would like to think I'm trying to be as scientific as possible, but everybody is entitled to their opinion.
You're right, absolutely, and I'm glad that you said that. Again, science does not have all the answer, and that's the problem. It's nothing wrong with looking to science because everything deals with science. Okay, we're in the scientific world. All right, let's just put it like that. But you're not going to get every answer, so it's going to always be an ongoing research. It's going to always be an ongoing research, and then there's things that's going to have to be upgraded. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing I like about Bobby Hemmett, and Bobby Hemmett happened to be one of my personal favorites. He's very entertaining. But he said something that was very important in one of his videos. He said that you have to go out and do the knowledge for yourself because my knowledge can one day my information can become rudimentary. And he said by it being rudimentary, you might come across information that might be able to debunk the information that I'm teaching. So this is why people need to go and do the knowledge. And for him to say that and for him to admit that, that's a powerful thing. You have to go and do your own knowledge. There's nothing wrong with learning from a beginner's level because we all had to go through that. I had to go through it with religion, right? And I had to eventually elevate myself to get where I'm at. I mean, you had to go through it. We all had to go through it. You know what I'm saying? We all had to go through the basic form of it. Now, and speaking of religion, let's get into let's talk a little bit about the people that are involved in the scientific field. Um, a lot of people don't realize that those who are in the scientific field, most of them are either Christian, Muslims, especially, and there are some who identify with other spiritual system or other spirituality, and there are very few who are atheists.
Yeah, I mean that's been my experience. Um, so in the STEM field, science, technology, engineering, and math, you know, in the natural sciences, there's a amount of atheists. I don't know the percentage, but I've encountered a lot of people, a lot of Jewish people, a lot of Muslim people, a lot of Christian people. Um, and then when you move out of the natural sciences into the fields of technology, engineering, and mathematics, you know, I feel like the number of people in religion like really increases. Um, and so I feel like there'll be a point in time where people will have to reconcile like their religious belief with their scientific knowledge because again, like I think you said earlier, like religion does make an attempt to explain things where science makes provides a better explanation, and
Mm-hmm.
so they need to reconcile those things. But once that day of reckoning occurs, I think we'll be in a good place. I kind of foresee a future where science will become a form of spirituality or form of religion, so to speak.
And
Um,
I'm glad that you said that because I was reading something. It's called scientism. Are you familiar with scientism?
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, so scientism, as a matter of fact, I can look it up right now while I'm on here with you. So let's um let's go ahead and let's walk through this together. Because this is a learning process for all of us. So there's a terminology called scientism, and according to WikiOne, it says scientism is the promotion of science as the best or only objective means by which society should determine normative or epistemological values, while the term was originally defined to mean methods and attitudes typical of or attribute to the natural sciences. Some religious scholars and subsequently many others adopted it as a pejorative with the meaning in is exaggerated trust in the efficiency of the methods of natural science applied to all areas of investigation, as in philosophy, the science, the social science, and the humanities. The term scientism is often used critically, implying an unwarranted application of science in situations considered not uh, amenable to application of the scientific method or similar scientific standards. Now,
Mhm.
with that terminology in itself and that definition, what do you understand so far about scientism? And would you consider yourself being a part of that, or would you not put yourself in that category?
Yeah, so that sounded like it has like a dual meaning, like the word Scientology, like where they it's like on one hand it's like people who think that science is the best way to go, and then on the other hand, like they said, it's used as like a pejorative to like demean certain people. I don't think I would want to put myself in that bucket. But yeah, this is my first time hearing that word. I want to look into that a little bit more. To because I'm not like it's my first time. So like they said, I was today years old when I found out about that. I was just
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I had found this out about a month ago, so I didn't even know what the term was. I never heard of it until, until about a month ago. But I had to like get into it and study a little bit about it. So
yeah.
now I like to ask this question, okay? Because I told you I like to study quantum physics.
Okay.
This is the final question. I ain't gonna be too long with it.
Oh, this is hard. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so what is your thought on quantum physics? In your let me rephrase that question. How do you define quantum physics, and why do you believe that quantum physics is very important in the humans world, in the human society, and just in society in general?
Right. Good question. Okay. So quantum physics, right? The word quantum means to quantify, to count. The reason why, and quantum physics basically studies what they call the smallest particles in nature, the smallest things in nature, uh, quarks and electrons, right? Or quarks and leptons, and the electron is a lepton. Um, the reason why they use the word quantum, meaning because it's studying the smallest thing, then everything else can be quantified by the smallest thing, meaning every all forms of matter can be quantified by how many electrons and how many quarks are within that matter, right?
Right.
In terms of like its use in its practical application, the most prevalent use and practical application of quantum physics that we know of is electricity. The electron is the most dominant quantum particle in the modern world. Our conversation right now that we're having is being facilitated by way of the electron. The thoughts that you're having in your head while I'm talking to you is being facilitated by way of electrons moving between neurons. That is literally a quantum particle, right? And so, I mean, I guess there's no other way to frame it other than, I mean, it facilitates a means to study the foundation of everything, literally.
Mhm. But as I mentioned earlier, that quantum physics is like the mystery science. As you can see, you said, there's no other way to like frame it. So, it's still kind of like the mystery. But to me, it's more closely related to theoretical physics in a sense, because with theoretical physics, it just like deals with the future of phenomenon. Like it just brings about prediction. So it theorizes things based on the calculation. Um, but in that sense, so let's talk about classical physics in there. Let's incorporate that. So with
Mhm.
class, how well do you know classical physics first and foremost? Before I
Yeah.
go.
So yeah. So classical physics, that's basically coming out of like what they call Newtonian mechanics, like what
Okay.
Isaac Newton was teaching, and then quantum physics, like the big pioneer in quantum physics was Albert Einstein and his theory of relativity. Albert Einstein was a theoretical physicist, and but his theories were tested experimentally by this guy named Eddington, right? So there are concepts within quantum physics that can be tested experimentally, and again, the application of those concepts. I mean, one of the like I said, one of the most prevalent ones is electricity, electrical engineering, because that is indeed a quantum particle. So yeah, while it has a theoretical component, it also has an experimental component too.
Okay. Yes. 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 That's that's very powerful. Yeah, it's very powerful. And I think that I mean, if people want to study on quantum physics, they can, but I think it is relevant because only the fact that you try, especially when it comes to atomic particles, like you mentioned, atoms and all of that, um, and also and trying to understand like the calculation of it, because we can't see atoms obviously with our own eyes. We can't
Right.
see proton, neutron, electrons with our own eyes, but we know it's there. So, and quantum physics is there to help us to actually, be able to like point it out and see that and be able to bring about some form of calculation behind it. You know what I'm saying? So,
In
yeah,
in
so
in
that's
ancient in ancient Egypt, they called it Amun, the hidden one. We know it's there, but we can't see it.
Hmm. Wow. Wow. Yes. Oh, and then here's another one. I said I was gonna stop asking too many questions, but I promise this gonna be the last question. This gonna be the last question. 'Cause I don't want to hold you up. I know how it can be, but this one is dealing with the holographic universe. Okay, are you
Mhm.
familiar about the holographic universe?
Yeah, I've heard that hypothesis. Yeah.
Okay, what's your thought on? Do you think that we live in a holographic universe? I mean, as far as because think about it. Let's say with the radiation, the electromagnetism, and all of that that's taking place, and the thermodynamic energy. Wouldn't it make sense to believe that the universe is holographic or hologram?
I mean, like, like even if it is like even if like let's say like yeah, let's say we live in a holographic universe. Okay, that's our reality. We live in a holographic universe. Like we can't do anything about it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it would be nice to know, but yeah, it's like that would just be our new paradigm, and we would have to like live with it and make sense of it. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's true or not, I don't think I have an opinion one way or the other of whether or not it's true. But if it is true, that's our reality, and we have to deal with it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, you're right. We have to deal with that. Yeah. I mean, and it kind of goes back to the concept about the pseudoscience and the protoscience and whatnot. Well, I can't say that we can't say it's pseudoscience because, of course, it's still an ongoing research or ongoing question. But what I'm saying? But it makes a logical sense in a nutshell because again, what we do when we talk about radiation and we talk about thermodynamic energy and all these different things uh the laws of excuse me, the what is it called? The laws of
Conservation of energy.
yes, the laws of conservation of energy. When we talk about those things and we put those things into categories, it just kind of makes you wonder what, dang, the universe must be holographic. It's not just a universe, it's not just something that exists around 13.8 billion years ago, according to scientists. Right? We don't even really know how old the universe really is, to be honest. So
I mean, I've heard some like I guess respectable scientists talk about the holographic universe. I don't know. I really don't know where that subject matter falls in terms of science or pseudoscience. I haven't investigated, but I've heard you know respectable scientists talk about it. They talk about how the universe might be a simulation in a computer. I've heard other, scientists talk about other fringe topics like time travel and the possibility of time travel. Um, string theory is one of those things that's purely theoretical that talks about multiple dimensions, where you have respectable scientists who talk about that, even though they haven't been able to demonstrate string theory experimentally. So, I mean, all of those concepts, I mean, it's mind blowing, and it's fertile ground for future scientific investigation for the youth, for anybody who might be interested. Those are areas that if our people become more motivated in the STEM fields, that we might be able to leverage to our benefit. If we have a good grasp and understanding of them, before other people. So, I mean, all of that is fascinating. All of it is fascinating.
Okay. Yeah, it is. Now, do you have any recommendation as far as books is concerned besides besides yours? Like any type of books, what type of books do you like to read relating to the scientific field? And who is your favorite
Sure,
author?
sure, yeah. So a few books I just finished reading. Um, First, I want to recommend Dr. Kaba Kameni. Also, he used to be known as Booker T. Coleman. He has a new book called The Shabaka Stone.
Okay.
I would highly encourage people to pick up his book. A book I'm reading, or I just finished reading, is called Saber, a Researcher's First Handbook by Ife Kilimanjaro, PhD. And
Oh
another book
yeah.
you have that one. And another one I'm reading is African Philosophy, the Pharaonic Period by Theophilo Benga. I think those are three powerful books that deal with uh, African science and African philosophy. And I think people should pick those up too. Those are three powerful books.
Okay, yeah. Wow. That's wow. So you say you reading a book called Shabaka Stone by Dr. Booker T. Watt. I mean Booker T. Coleman.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. And the one by Theophile Obanga. And who's the other author?
Theophilo Benga is called African Philosophy, and then
Mm-hmm.
Seba, a Researcher's First Handbook, is by Ife Kilimanjaro, IFE Kilimanjaro, PhD.
Okay, okay, then yes, yes. Okay, I'm familiar with his books. I don't have that particular book, but I'm familiar with his writings and stuff, or with
Yeah,
their writing.
I think
So,
you can get them on Amazon. I think all of them are available on Amazon.
okay, hold on. Somebody put up a comment on here. So it says, but we know something comes from something. So it's guaranteed that there is something before the expansion from a singularity. What's your thought on that comment?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, one hypothesis about that is that the universe cycles. So what the singularity he's talking about at the point of the Big Bang, right, where the universe expanded from where all matter in the universe was a single hot condensed state. And the question people always ask is, well, what came before the Big Bang? And that's the similar kind of question that we used to ask in religion. Well, if if God created the universe, then who created God? It's the same kind of question. And
Mm-hmm.
so one hypothesis that people have about what came before the Big Bang was that um, they have what's called the Big Bounce, where the universe kind of cycles between a singularity, and then it expands rapidly as far as it can, and then it snaps back into a singularity, and it expands and expands. And so it goes back and forth between a singularity and I'll say a multiplicity. I just made that word up, but that's one hypothesis about what happens. So yeah, but I mean that's another area of still requiring scientific investigation.
Okay, yeah. So as for me, where I stand at, because that's still unknown. Even with the Big Bang theory, it's still questionable. Some people say that the Big Bang theory should not, should be debunked. And then
Mm,
there are those who still believe in it. But for me, the way I understand what we call God, in a sense, I look at God as being the universe, consciousness, and nature, more like a
mm,
pantheism type of point of view. So I have that
mm,
pantheism point of view about God. So
mm,
this is why, science is one of my lane, because that's just the way I see God as far as like the connection is concerned. But Yeah, as far as the Big Bang Theory, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about it. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, from what I have read, there's some logistic information about it. But I can't really say that everything started off as a Big Bang, because then that would be meaning that, okay, how do you, okay, well, like you said, well, how do you explain the Big Bang Theory? What came before the Big Bang? So it's like you have to be able to give that type of explanation as well. But so yeah, where I stand on it, I don't really have enough knowledge to really say that it did not exist or it did not occur or happen, you know. So
Mm.
yeah, but
So
um
the way they came to that conclusion, and then so this is something that's it's an experiment that we can, like, everybody can do, especially like if you're in a place where you can look up at the stars and see the stars. Like if you're able to look up at the stars and measure like where the stars are today, and then like you have to have a precise measurement, and then come back like in a year at the same point in time and look up at the stars and see where the stars are. Like there's a ever so small change in their position, and it's not due to the precession or any of those things. And so what the scientists saw was the stars were getting farther and farther and farther from each other over time. And so they said, okay, well, if the universe is expanding in that way, then they just reversed the process, and they said, well, if it's expanding, then it must have all came from a single point. So again, this is a theory. There may be a better explanation for that set of data, but that's how they came to that conclusion. You know what I'm saying?
okay, okay. Oh, I got to throw out just one more. I forgot.
It's
I
all
totally
good.
forgot about this. Okay, so now I had this conversation about quantum physics. I did a video with I don't know if you're familiar with Brother Ngozi. You probably never heard of him.
Bayete and Gozi.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Brother
I
Ngozi.
yeah, I've heard him talk, man. That brother has a lot of information.
Yes.
I personally, I feel like he's a prodigy. Like the way
Yeah,
he's
he
able to,
is.
like, yeah, the way he's able to, like, memorize stuff. Like, I'm like, man, like, yeah, that brother's a prodigy.
Oh, yeah, he is. Oh, he's very magnificent, very powerful brother. Shout out to Brother Ngozi. So we was having a conversation about subjectivity regarding to reality, and how everything is subjective around us. So when I was reading an article about quantum physics, it somewhere in the article it mentioned how that it shows that the world or reality or what we call reality is nothing more than subjectivity. So
Mm.
I want to know, what is your thought on, do you think that reality itself is subjectivity at the, or do you, where do you stand on that?
Woo, woo. Oh wow.
I know
I
that's
mean,
a heavy question, ain't
it,
it?
it's let me. The reason why it's so heavy is because if reality itself is subjective, then that basically means that we can't really know anything. You know what I'm saying? Like that means it's all subjective. Like, and so one thing science tries to do, we try to deal with an objective reality, things that we can measure, things that are objective. But if it happened, and I've seen those articles, I've read those articles, and those articles blow me away, and it sits me down. I just have to think like, man, like if reality is in fact subjective, then it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Oh man. Um, I can't make an argument one way or the other. I understand like people's point of view who make that argument. Um, I kind of question like why they're motivated to make the argument of a subjective reality. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because that, I mean, that basically, kind of tends towards chaos, right? It kind of tends towards like not really having any order in the world, not really being able to have any explanations in the world. But yeah, that's a heavy one. Hmm.
Mhm. Okay.
So check it. So let me say this: if reality is subjective, if reality is subjective, then the mathematics of statistics and probability is the best way. to navigate a subjective reality, because that would give us the ability to say what is most probable and what is most likely within the subjectivity. That's my answer.
Hmm. Mm. Mm. Well, you know what, and where I stand is that reality can be both subjective and objective because it depends on what it is. Like for example, we all know that we're gonna die, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the objective. You're gonna die. You know what I'm saying? So that's the reality in itself. You're not promised to be here forever. You know what I'm saying? You're not guaranteed to live forever. There's a quote. There's a quote that I read. It says that the what is it, that life is the beginning of death. Now that's
Yeah,
deep.
they say
Yeah,
the moment that you're born, you start to die. Shout out to
exactly.
103,000.
Exactly. So that's the evolution. And going to the evolution process, you going from one transitional stage from being a fetus or embryo to becoming a ancestor, or being deceased. So with that being said, that's the objective. We all know that if you jump off a bridge and you and you land on the ground, what's gonna happen. You gonna die. So
Mm,
that right there, so right then and there, that's the objective in itself. Now everything else, yeah, there is subjectivity taking place based on what you have experienced. So we both may be doing the same thing, but we might have different results. You may have one
mm,
result, but I might have another result. You know what I'm saying? So that's the
mm.
subjective. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so it could be both, in my opinion. Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be both, in my opinion.
I, th- I
Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
think that if yeah, I say we all gotta die, but we ain't going nowhere.
Right.
We still you still gonna be here. Your matter and your energy is still gonna be a part of the natural world. The chemical processes which facilitate your life may come to an end, but you ain't going nowhere. What it is that makes you will still be here, and it will cycle through the process that matter cycles through. You know what I'm saying? So I'm learning as I get older to be literally that I am one with everything, like the stuff that makes up me, makes up everything
Hmm.
around me. And
Hmm.
when I die, I'm not going anywhere. I literally will still be here. My matter and energy will still be here.
Right. Your DNA gonna still be here.
It'll be here. Just cycle through the process. So yep.
Yeah. And what my response is coming is still subjected to humans. Death is not subjected to humans. I mean, death gonna happen regardless of what people think. You know what I'm saying? So I have to
Mm,
disagree with that comment.
mm,
But yeah, it's gonna happen regardless. But getting back to what you were saying, it's all a learning process for us. That's what life
mm.
is. Life is a
That's what
learning
life is.
process, and we're on the journey. We're on the journey to be able to find out and learn what we can, know what we can. So Erica Badu said the best in her song. What was it? The first single that she came out with, On and On. She said, a man that knows that he knows nothing at all.
Yep. That's a bar right there.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah, a wise man, what she said, a man knows that he knows nothing at all. And I'm like, dang, now she really hit the point on that one. You don't know
Mm,
nothing. So you're a wise person. A wise individual will tell you, I don't know. But they're willing to do whatever it takes to find out. Versus a person that say they got all the answers, but in actuality, they don't know anything. So therefore they can become the fool.
the more you learn, the more you know you don't know.
There you go. Right. Right. Exactly. And like with me, what I do on my channel, I deal with a lot of information regard to African American history. And of course I talk
Mm,
about current events and I talk about, science and stuff. But What I know is, especially like dealing with the concept about slavery, there's a lot more to slavery than what I thought I knew. So I said,
Mm.
I said, wow, I didn't really know this. So therefore, I didn't really know what slavery really was about. You know what I'm
Have you
saying?
been to Africa? Have you been to Africa?
No, I haven't been to Africa. I plan on doing so, hopefully. Once I get that finances together, yeah, hopefully I can go
Yeah.
to Africa and visit the continent and all.
Mm.
Yeah, I want
And,
to go there.
and get you another side of the story of the transatlantic slave trade. You know, from the griots and the historians and the different tribes who were involved in it. Like that would be, that was one thing that really opened me up. And changed my perspective. Yeah. It's so much to say. We've been on for so
Yeah,
long.
I know, I
Yeah.
know, I know, I know, I know, I know,
Yeah.
I know, I know. We'll say that for another day. We'll really say that for another day.
Yeah.
But wow, it was great having you on here. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, and like you are very thought provoking. I was very intrigued so far. You have not disappointed me at all. So like I just like I enjoyed it. Like I'm like, wow, this brother here,
I,
this
I
mastermind.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you reaching out to me. Um, I know I'm not really a talkative person, so I'm surprised I was able to go for this long. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy you reached out to me, and yeah, I'm happy for the support. I love your channel also. I've been checking out your video. I like you doing
Aw.
what you're doing. So if you don't mind, if I can like repost it, and then I'll like direct people to come back and watch your channel, you know what I'm saying,
Okay.
and subscribe. Yeah, yeah. So you can like just to help out, reach out and everything like that.
All right then. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you guys make sure if you guys have not checked out his book, y'all need to do so. The Patah Technology. Also check out the Supreme Mathematics and check out the Reither Engineering book as well. This is a powerful conversation. This brother is really, like I said, he's a mastermind, and he has that mindset of a professor for sure. You know what I'm saying? He will be like the Professor X of the conscious community. I like Marvel and DC. Okay, I'm a Marvel's fan and a DC fan, so
Yeah,
I like comic
yeah.
books. All right, but yes, wow. Hopefully one day I can build with you again. I know you're a busy guy. I know you have a busy schedule going on, and it's kind of hard to reach out to you. But I was fortunate, and I'm glad that you came on here to clear up some misconception. I'm glad that we were able to build on the subject about ethnoscience, mythologies, and modern science. And like I said, I really enjoyed this a lot. This is a teaching moment, and this is also yeah, this is a very teaching moment, educational moment for not just myself, but also for the people that are listening as well. Wow. Anything else you want to say before I close
Um,
it?
yeah, man. If I mean, I hope I address all the concerns. If there are any more concerns or questions or challenges, all of that is fair game. I'll try to make myself available again. I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate the support. Um, and yeah, I think and until next time, yeah, I think that's good. That's good. Thank you so much.
All right then. All right, brother Ace, you take it easy on yourself and you be safe during this pandemic. Be
Yes, you too.
careful. And
You
they
too.
talking about there's another strain out there. I don't know, but
Yeah, the Delta variant. Yeah.
oh goodness, yeah, yeah. Just be safe. Be careful.
All right, you do the same. Thank you so much.
All right then. You take it easy. Peace.
All right, you too. Peace, man.
All right. All right, and I want to thank you guys that was on here watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it a lot. Um, that was a powerful build with the brother and I. He's very magnificent. I mean, I've learned so much from him and just listening to him. The conversation was great. It was on point. And like I said, you guys, make sure you guys just support this brother if you want to like get into his work, and also check out his channel, which is called the African Creation Energy channel. Um, it's a great channel. I strongly recommend it. You know what I'm saying? I strongly recommend this dude. He's very powerful and he's, oh my goodness. Yes, when I tell you that man got a professor mind, that man sounds like a professor for sure. But yeah, again, I'm put up the books for y'all. Make sure y'all check his books out if y'all want to learn more. Supreme Mathematics, African My Art Magic, Non-Ether Re-Engineering, and Protoscience Technology. Make sure you check those books out. So it's always important to also get clarity about things that you may not understand. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just jumping to conclusion. You know what I mean? So it was a great thing I had him on here because I wanted to be able to uh, disambiguate all the confusion about the information that was presented in his books. And so he explained why he did that and he formatted the way he did because he know his audience are mostly people in his own community, especially particularly those that's in the conscious community. So he wanted to be able to articulate things in the level of their understanding in order to help them to be able to get into the context of modern science. So, and I think what he did was a fantastic job. I think it's very magnificent. And I would recommend that people would, you know, if they want to really get into involving the STEM, I recommend people check out his books. And he has some more books, but you know, check out those 3 books and just to, you know, just read it for yourself, so that way you can see what it's like and be able to, you know, see it for yourself. And then you know, you also want to cross reference as well. It's always important to do that. That's very important. Cross referencing is important, but just make sure you just read and just do your own, you know, do your own study. You know, start off from that level, and then you can work your way up. So, yeah, that was a powerful build, though. I would say I enjoyed it. I've been on here for almost close to 2 hours, about an hour and 47 minutes. I've been on here with the brother, and I must say that I really, this was so great just by so far as out of all the people that I have interacted with. You know, I had a great conversation with Brother Ngozi, but this one was a great conversation. It was a magnificent one. So I enjoy it. I really do. And I hope you guys did the same. Other than that, make sure you guys check out my channel, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell. Make sure you check out the video contents that's on here and share those video contents. And thank you guys who have been subscribing. Thank you guys who have been very, very supportive. So thanks to the chat that's coming in, that's watching the channel, and that's coming in with your comments and your questions and whatnot. I really appreciate that. I'm going to make sure I do more videos very often about, you know, various subjects. Yeah, and I'll make sure that I have more people coming on here on the platform so I can do the questionnaire interviews and give out commentaries and things like that. So, yes, because it's very important that we all just try to stay connected and try to network with each other as much as possible. But other than that, I'm getting ready to close it out. All right. And I will come back later on dealing with African American history. So be on the lookout for that. Um, until then, you guys please be safe, be careful. We still in the pandemic. And also, you know, just stay on your knowledge game, just be powerful, be educated, and there's nothing wrong with being able to learn because that's what we're here for as humans. We're here to learn, we're here to live. We don't know everything, we don't have all the answers. All right. Until next time, may peace and power and elevation be to all of you. And this your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging off. So deuces. All right. Before I get off of here, if you guys got Clubhouse, make sure you guys add me on Clubhouse, which is at Tip French. So I will put it in the chat for those of you that wants to I'm gonna go ahead and type in the chat right now. Yep. So yeah, you guys check me out on Clubhouse under Tip French. TIPFRENCH. So if you got Clubhouse, please do so. I'm on there a lot. So yeah, I'm on there. And also Timo Cyrus have um, a Clubhouse page. So you guys can go ahead and follow the page as well. We come on there, we do various subjects and talk about various things. So yeah, make sure you guys check that out. All right. Um, and hopefully I'll be active on Facebook pretty soon. But until then, you guys, y'all take it easy on yourselves, and that's all I have. All right. Peace. Have a good one.